Lions were pleased to sponsor the ICF Coach of the Year 2020 award, which recognises the power of coaching and celebrates coaching excellence. The winner this year was Stephen Clements, who's a professional coach, and he works with his clients to gain clarity around their vision, purpose and goals in life. He also has a podcast called The Curious Coach. Stephen wasn't always a coach. He started off his career solving engineering problems and worked his way up to managing an engineering department. However, he realised that this work wasn't energising or motivating him as much anymore, and he decided to change paths. So he's now on a career path that he finds more rewarding and fulfilling, which is coaching, helping people to take control of their lives and connect with their passions. I was delighted to be able to catch up with Stephen and get some insight into what makes a Coach of the Year. Okay, so hi Stephen, thank you so much for joining me today. And congratulations on being awarded the ICF Coach of the Year.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Julie, and great to have this chance to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your, I'm curious, what was your first thought when your name was announced that you won the award?
I think I was a bit gobsmacked. I suppose, especially, given the fact that it's called out highly commended to Eileen Hopkins, who I know and who is a fabulous coach. And I thought, oh, well, if Eileen's only got highly commended, well, I have no chance. So then it was like, oh!
Didn't have a speech prepared or anything?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I felt a little bit like a floundering fish thinking, oh! So it's probably one of the few times for anybody who knows me that I've been actually speechless, which was quite a nice shock and surprise. Yeah,
absolutely. And have you had any other, unexpected successes this year? I know it's been a big year of change and new experiences and new learnings. Has there been anything else that has been quite unexpected for you?
I think one of sort of like I wouldn't say it's an unexpected success. However, an unexpected upside was some of a training course that I was doing earlier in the year around coaching constellations. So, I'd signed up expecting or hoping that it was going to be done in person. And, because of COVID and everything, we ended up having to do it online. And if anything, it was even more powerful because I was curious, how could something like constellations, where it's all about, connecting with other people and shared energy, how does that work online? So actually experiencing that type of training through an online medium was really, really powerful. And then that's kind of got me thinking about, well, how can this be applied and how can I use this then in the work that I do? So that was an unexpected upside, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah. I know. I'm sure there's been plenty of those that have come up that we didn't, might not have happened if it weren't for COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
And aside from that, what has been your experience like of coaching in 2020?
Yeah, it's been mixed. In some ways, it's really hard to beat that in-person connection where you're in the room, you can see the whole person, you can experience much easier what's happening for them, both in terms of obviously what they're saying, but also just how they're being in the room, the emotions, the breathing. It's so much, you feel so much more connected. So moving online, that's been a challenge in some ways. And then I suppose in another way, a lot of the coaching work I would be doing was online anyway. So it wasn't a huge shift for me. And if anything, it got a little bit easier because aside from the fact that, if you're in an office, you have the challenges around, finding out an appropriate space to do coaching from and all of the joys that happen with that. Whereas, the fact that we're in our own homes now, to get privacy, to have a coaching conversation with somebody, you simply pick the laptop up and walk into a different room. So that part's got easier. And then also people are much more comfortable with technology. Some clients maybe before March this year weren't aware of what Zoom was, or how to use it, or how to connect, or how to come off mute, or all of these things. Whereas now, suddenly everybody's become a lot more technically literate. So actually coaching online really does work once you make the adjustment.
Yeah, and once both people get more comfortable with it, Although I know myself, I'll still come on and be on mute. I think it's the quote of the year is you're on mute. Yeah, absolutely. But and going back, I know you used to be, working in an engineering space. So what got you interested in coaching in this kind of career path?
Yeah, it's a strange one. In some ways, I suppose I went through a number of different transitions, in terms of as a techie, as a nerd, engineer, whatever. Going through college, I had no interest in people. It was show me the engineering problem, let me write a bit of software, let me make something, and that's what I was interested in. And strangely enough, it kind of happened that as I got better and took on more technical work, then I worked my way through becoming to the point where I was a technical lead or a team lead, and the people aspect of what I was doing was becoming more and more, until actually I realized, well, I'm probably now doing less technical work than anything else, and it's more actually it is about the people. So that got me curious to learn more about that aspect, because again, college did not prepare me for that in any way, because doing engineering, we had like 40 hours of technical stuff, and none of that was about the interpersonal or all of those softer skills. So I started to get curious to learn, and then I kind of suppose I realized actually I was enjoying this much more, and at that stage I also realized that I wasn't as being energized by the technical stuff as much. And I suppose I started the coaching journey in a way, it was a parallel from, I was looking for something different. And, through experience in coaching, through work and various other mediums, I actually started to think, well, actually this could be hugely valuable for me to figure out what do I want to do, and to find more about myself. And then the more that I found about myself and I found out about coaching, the more I kind of fell in love with it. And, it's kind of ignited that passion then that actually, hey, this feels really something that can be really impactful, and at two different levels. Selfishly, it's about my own continuing, ongoing journey, and I don't think that will ever end. And then there's also, whilst doing that, realizing that this can actually make a huge difference to people, to teams, to organizations, to cultures. So I just love it. And I think the other piece that I love around it is how in some ways you can get quickly competent at some of the technical stuff. You can learn a new programming language very quickly. You can be writing an application in it, and it's great. It feels like a lot longer journey with coaching, because it's such a broad array of tools, of philosophies, of frameworks, of approaches, that it's kind of like this never-ending well of stuff to explore. And I just love that whole aspect of it as well, that you're always learning, always learning something new, always growing, and so on. And then I suppose where I'm at now is thinking about, I suppose I went through a phase where I was kind of saying, well, okay, I've done that technical stuff, that's me. And now I'm all about coaching. And now I'm coming back to embracing, well, actually, how do I merge those two together? How do I bring the strengths of my technical abilities to what I'm learning as a coach, and what would that look like? And that's kind of getting me curious and thinking then about, how can we as coaches and as a profession start to embrace technology and do things differently, and maybe kind of disrupt some of the way that things have been done. So there's all those sorts of questions bubbling away in the background as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. And just when you were saying there about, we do often learn those kind of technical or the hard skills in college, and that's maybe the early stage of our careers. And then it goes, well, actually, and even as the world keeps changing and things become more automated, those soft skills are actually the things that we really need to keep us going. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's always, I suppose it brings it back, I suppose that difference between emotional intelligence and IQ, you know,
yeah,
we from an education point of view, we put so much emphasis onto IQ, whereas actually, you know, EQ is even more important. And wouldn't it be
absolutely.
great to see more of that coming through the education system, not just at school, but also for colleges and so on. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of hopeful that education systems will start to realize that, yeah, those are the future proof skills, you know, that what makes us human is actually what we really need to be aware of.
yeah, especially when you think about now how, because of technology, we have so much information at our fingertips. You know, we can go to
Yeah.
Google, instantly find out anything, which is great from, you know, having the information, but it's the emotional side to us that will then use that, process it, and allow us to connect with other people to actually achieve something. You know, the information, the facts, the figures, that kind of becomes irrelevant to some
Yeah.
degree.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially with the rate of change, you know, that things are just constantly changing. Things are so complex. You know, one solution one day might not work the next day, you know, which I imagine even from an engineering background might be a bit, you know, jarring to initially get your head around. You know, it's like, well, you know,
Yeah,
we can repeat it. It's you know, always the same. And then when you go to people and the complexity of that, it's a whole new
yeah,
world.
much messier.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But so I suppose, you know, as the coach of the year, you know, I'm sure plenty of people are looking up to you as in that profession. Would you have any advice for anyone? Maybe they're, you know, relatively new to coaching, or they're thinking about going into it as a career, or maybe they're thinking about going for that award next year. You know, do you have any advice that you think you'd tell them?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, as coaches, we don't really give advice, so it's kind of have to think a little bit about this one. But you know, I think it starts. You know, I suppose there's so many different pieces. You know, for people that are thinking of getting into coaching as a profession, you know, the reality is it is a difficult profession to get into. You know, in terms of you're dealing with a lot of misconceptions about what coaching is and isn't, and you know, because of that, it's such a big beast of a thing. So the first step is trying to figure out, well, what is it you're getting into, and accepting the fact that you know, it is going to be challenging to build a business from it and to make a livelihood, and that will take time. It's not just something you can go away, do a, you know, a couple of months training course on, and hey presto, I'm a coach and I'll have this big business and life will be wonderful. You know, the reality is it's hard. And beyond that, then I would say the most important thing is about doing your own self work. You know, before you can bring somebody else on a journey where they're discovering and connecting in with themselves and who they are and what they want out of life, you kind of have to do that work for yourself, because otherwise, who are you to authentically sit in front of a client and help them on their own journey? So, you know, that I think that's sometimes a step that some people coming into coaching will look at. They'll just simply think it's a training course, I go off and do it. Whereas when you start to get into it, you realize actually it's so much more than a training course, and that whole voyage of your self discovery. The other part I would say as well is to be patient with yourself. You know, like a lot of these softer skills, it takes time and experience to develop them. And we can be a bit like kids in a candy shop, you know, especially when you think about all the different training courses that are out there and all the different tools and frameworks and everything else. And we can be going, oh, I'll have that, I'll have this. And that's great. But at the same time, it does just allow yourself time and space to learn the basics, to embed some of the skills, to grow organically, to get the experience of working with clients, to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work, and to allow that to grow organically. And then when the right training comes along, you'll know, you know, you'll be ready for it and you'll get so much more out of it. And then finally, I would say, and this is probably the most important one, is to connect with the coaching community, either through, some of the coaching circles that are out there, or like a lot of the training courses or the training providers, they're nearly like families, in terms of the alumni days and the cohorts that, we come together as classes, will stay together for years afterwards. So you connect with them, and also the likes of supervision, and all of those aspects are really important, because coaching can be quite a lonely profession, in terms of you're working very closely with clients who are sharing things with you that you can't share with other people. So how do you resource yourself and support yourself as a coach? And that's where the community and supervision and all these sorts of things can really play a part in helping you grow and develop, as well as network. So it's, I think that's probably the three pieces of advice I would have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, those are brilliant. Yeah, I think that's really valuable. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat, and I'm sure people will really benefit from this. So thanks so much, Stephen. Take care.
My pleasure, Julie. Great to talk with you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stephen.